I hope you're doing well and welcome to the Horn Broadcasting Channel. My name is Mtalam Kusia. The Horn of Africa has for decades been known to the world through the language of conflict, drought, terrorism, political instability and humanitarian crisis. But today, a different conversation is slowly emerging across the region. The conversation about integration, cooperation, and the possibility of building a united economic bloc and strategic bloc capable of transforming one of Africa's most important geopolitical regions. The Horn of Africa Integration Project is not a single document or one agreement. It is a growing vision shared by several countries in the region that believe their future prosperity depends on working together instead of competing against each other. The Horn of Africa includes countries such as Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, Djibouti, Eritrea, Sudan, South Sudan, and at times Uganda is also considered strategically connected to the region. Massive natural resources, key maritime routes, and one of the youngest populations in the world. Geographically, the Horn of Africa sits at the center of global trade routes. The Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden also among the busiest shipping lanes on Earth. Every year, billions of dollars worth of goods pass through the waters, connecting Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Because of this strategic location, global powers including the United States, China, Turkey, Gulf states, Russia, and European nations all maintain strong interests in the region. Military bases, trade agreements, infrastructure projects, and diplomatic competition have all increased over the years. But despite this strategic importance, the Horn of Africa has struggled to fully benefit from its own position because regional divisions have repeatedly undermined cooperation. Border disputes, civil wars, political mistrust, ethnic conflicts, terrorism, and competition over port resources have slowed development for decades. Instead of building railways together, countries were spending billions on military operations. Instead of expanding trade, borders often became zones of tension and insecurity. However, recent years have shown a growing realization that no country in the Horn of Africa can prosper alone. One of the biggest drivers of integration has been economics. Countries in the region increasingly understand the regional connectivity can unlock enormous opportunities. Ethiopia, for example, is Africa's second most populous nation but remains landlocked after Eritrea's independence in 1993. This has made access to the ports a major strategic issue for Addis Ababa. Meanwhile, countries like Djibouti have benefited significantly from providing port access to Ethiopia. Today, a large percentage of Ethiopian imports and exports pass through Djibouti's ports. Massive railway and road projects connecting two countries have already demonstrated how regional cooperation can boost economic growth. Kenya has also pushed for regional integration through projects such as Lapset Corridor, a major infrastructure initiative connecting Kenya, South Sudan, and Ethiopia through highways, railways, oil pipelines, airports, and ports. The vision behind these projects is simple: connect the region economically so that trade, investment, and mobility become easier. Somalia, after decades of instability, is also slowly repositioning itself economically and diplomatically within the region. Improved security cooperation and trade partnership could allow Somalia to benefit from its long coastline and strategic ports. The Horn of Africa Integration Project is therefore largely centered around four major pillars: infrastructure, trade, security cooperation, and political diplomacy. Infrastructure is perhaps the most visible aspect. Roads, railways, energy projects, telecommunication, and ports are being discussed as tools to connect regional economies. The idea is that if goods can move faster across the borders, businesses will grow, jobs will increase, and dependence on foreign imports could reduce over time. Energy cooperation is another major area. Ethiopia's Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, commonly known as GERD, represents both opportunity and controversy. While Egypt and Sudan have raised concern over water security. Ethiopia sees the dam as a transformative energy project capable of powering regional development. If managed through diplomacy, regional energy sharing could become one of the strongest foundations for integration. Countries across East Africa and Horn need electricity for industrialization, digital economies, and urban growth. Security cooperation is equally important. The region continues to face threat from terrorism, piracy, armed trafficking, human trafficking, and cross-border insurgencies also remain challenges. Regional cooperation in intelligence sharing, military coordination, and border security has become increasingly necessary because instability in one country often affects the entire region. For example, conflict in Sudan has created refugee pressures and security concerns for neighboring countries. Ethiopia's internal conflicts have affected regional trade and humanitarian stability. Somalia's security challenges influence in Kenya and Ethiopia directly. This interconnected reality means that peace can no longer be treated as a purely national issue. Politically, the Horn of Africa integration vision gained stronger momentum after rapprochement between Ethiopia and Eritrea in 2018 under Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and President Isaias Afwerki. For many observers, the peace agreement between two countries created hope for a new regional era after decades of hostility. There are discussions about deeper cooperation involving Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Somalia, including economic and security partnerships. Though progress has faced setbacks due to internal conflicts and political tensions, the idea of a more integrated Horn of Africa continues to shape regional diplomacy. Yet, despite all the promises, major obstacles remain. One of the biggest challenges is political instability. Several countries in the region continue facing internal conflicts, contested governance systems, and fragile institutions. Long-term integration becomes difficult when governments are struggling with domestic crises. Another challenge is mistrust between states. Historical rivalries still influence regional politics. Competition over ports, access to the sea, natural resources, and geopolitical influence often create suspicion rather than cooperation. Sometimes countries fear domination by larger regional powers, which others worry about foreign interference shaping regional alliances. Economic inequality is another issue. Some nations are more economically advanced than others, creating fears that integration benefits may not be equally distributed. Small economies often worry about becoming dependent on stronger regional markets. Climate change also poses a serious threat. The Horn of Africa is one of the regions most vulnerable to droughts, floods, food insecurity, and environmental shocks. Millions of pastoralists and farmers depend directly on climate sensitivity or sensitive livelihoods. Without regional climate adaptation strategies, humanitarian crises may continue undermining development efforts. So what should be done for the Horn of Africa integration project to succeed? First, regional leaders must prioritize diplomacy over confrontation. Second, investment in regional infrastructure must continue. Third, youth and businesses communities should be involved more actively. Fourth, regional organizations such as Intergovernmental Authority on Development and the African Union must strengthen conflict prevention and economic coordination mechanism. Fifth, integration should focus on ordinary citizens, not only political elites. The Horn of Africa integration project is still fragile, incomplete, and filled with challenges. But if regional leaders sustain political will and prioritize long-term cooperation, the Horn could become one of the Africa's most dynamic economic and geopolitics blocks. Because in today's world, no nation truly rises alone, and for the Horn of Africa, integration may no longer be just an option, it may be a necessity for survival, stability, and prosperity. If you've got any contribution to the topic, please do so in the comment section. My name is Mtalam Kosia, and this is the Horn Broadcasting Channel.